Hey guys, in today's video we are going to discuss the nitrogen cycle. But before we move to that, first of all we must know what's a biogeochemical or a nutrient cycle. So it's a pathway by which the chemical elements they circulate in the biosphere through a characteristic path from environment to organisms and back to the environment. Essentially, every chemical element which is present in our atmosphere, whether it is CO2, whether it's nitrogen, it is circulating. It is going from the living organisms to the environment and from the environment back to the living organisms. Even if you break down the word biogeochemical cycle, the bio means life, geo means environment, earth, and chemical is the chemical element. So it's the circulation of chemical elements from bio, that is from life, to environment, and from environment back to life. This is called as the biogeochemical cycle. Now we have two types of nutrient cycles. We have the gaseous cycle and the sedimentary cycle. The elements which are a part of gaseous cycle, their reservoir lies in the atmosphere or the hydrosphere. Atmosphere is the gaseous blanket around the earth, while hydrosphere is your oceans and seas and your freshwater bodies. While for the sedimentary cycle, the reservoir lies in the earth's crust. So examples of gaseous cycle are carbon dioxide, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen cycle, while for sedimentary ones are the sulfur, phosphorus, calcium cycles. Now we are going to understand nitrogen cycle in detail. First of all, you should know how does nitrogen exist. Now nitrogen undergoes gaseous cycle, so its reservoir lies in the atmosphere. Nitrogen exists in the atmosphere as a diatomic molecule made up of two nitrogen atoms which are bonded with each other via a triple covalent bond. So it is a very inert molecule and a very hard to react with molecule. Here you can see our atmosphere is composed of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and other gases like CO2 and argon, etc. they are just 1%. So nitrogen is very abundant in our atmosphere, you can say. Now this nitrogen dioxide or the N2 molecule is very inert. It cannot be used by plants or animals as such. So it has to be fixed. It has to be reduced in a form which can be used by animals and plants and all other living organisms. This process of conversion of nitrogen to ammonia is called as nitrogen fixation. And the nitrogen fixation occurs by three ways. We have the biological nitrogen fixation, industrial nitrogen fixation, and atmospheric nitrogen fixation. Bio means life, so in biological nitrogen fixation, it is the living organisms which are converting nitrogen into ammonia. In industrial nitrogen fixation, the fixation takes place with the help of industrial processes like Haber's process. In atmospheric nitrogen fixation, also known as the electrical nitrogen fixation, the energy provided by the UV radiations and lightning is used to break down the nitrogen molecule, and this then reacts with the atmospheric oxygen to directly give the nitrates, which is the NO3 minus. Now let's talk about biological nitrogen fixation. Not every organism can fix nitrogen. Only those organisms which contain an enzyme called nitrogenase can fix nitrogen. And these organisms are exclusively prokaryotes. Only some of the prokaryotes fix nitrogen and they carry this enzyme called nitrogenase. So here in this reaction you can see that the atmospheric nitrogen, when it is provided 12 ATP energy in the presence of nitrogenase, it forms ammonia, right? So here the reaction can be seen. These microbes or these prokaryotes which are able to fix nitrogen are called nitrogen fixing microbes, and they can be of two types. We have free living or symbiotic bacteria. So free living ones are those can fix nitrogen independently, they don't depend on other organism, while the symbiotic ones have to be in some symbiotic relationship with another organism to be able to fix nitrogen. Now first of all, let's see free living nitrogen fixing microbes. So we can have bacteria or cyanobacteria, which are also known as blue-green algae. So in bacteria also we have aerobic bacteria like Azotobacter and Viscerinchia, and in anaerobic ones we have Rhodospirillum. In cyanobacteria we can have Anabina and Nostoc. So here is a Nostoc filament, and it's made up of many cells, and one cell which is known as heterocyst, it contains nitrogenase enzyme, and that is why it is able to fix nitrogen. While talking about of the symbiotic microbes, they usually live inside the root nodules of plants. Now these root nodules can be of leguminous plants or non-leguminous plants. Examples of leguminous ones are alfalfa, sweet clover, sweet pea, while that of non-leguminous ones are alnus, and the examples of the bacteria are rhizobium and frankia. Here you can see that root nodule contains the rhizobium bacteria. Also here this is a picture of roots, and in these are the root nodules, these white structures. Inside these you can find millions of rhizobium bacteria. Next process after nitrogen fixation is nitrification. Now that we have ammonia, this ammonia will be converted into nitrites and then nitrates by bacteria Nitrosomonas, Nitrococcus and Nitrobacterium respectively. These bacterium are called chemoautotrophs, and here you can see the reaction. First step is ammonia is being converted into nitrites with the help of Nitrosomonas and Nitrococcus, and second step is that nitrites are being converted into nitrates with the help of Nitrobacterium or Nitrobacter. Now that we have nitrate present in soil, these nitrates will be utilized and assimilated by the plants. They will be absorbed by the roots and transported to the leaves, and leaves are the food factories. Here they will be again reduced to ammonia, and it will form the amine group of amino acids and further form proteins and DNA and RNA, etc. The fourth step in nitrogen cycle is denitrification. So a lot of amount of nitrates present in soil have been utilized by the plants, but what about the nitrates which have not been utilized by the plants? They are still present in the soil but they are unused. These nitrates undergo a process called denitrification, where with the action of denitrifying bacteria, for example Pseudomonas and Theobacillus, they get converted back to atmospheric nitrogen. So here you can see the nitrates which are excess nitrates in the soil, they will be converted back to atmospheric nitrogen with the help of Thiobacillus or Pseudomonas bacteria, and these are the denitrifying bacteria. Plants utilize the nitrogen to make their body parts and their cell parts, and they will be further eaten by animals, and thus indirectly or directly they will be passing down their nitrogen into higher organisms. But what after these organisms die? After dying, the organic nitrogen is converted back into ammonia with the help of decomposers like aerobic and anaerobic bacteria and fungi. So this is the last process of the nitrogen cycle, which is ammonification. The formed ammonia as a result of ammonification, most of it enters the nitrification process while the rest of it volatilizes and re-enters the atmosphere. Now we are going to summarize the entire nitrogen cycle with the help of these diagrams. So here you can see that the nitrogen cycle basically consists of 5 steps. We have nitrogen fixation, nitrification, assimilation, ammonification and denitrification, which we have discussed in detail. Now look at this figure. The atmospheric nitrogen is fixed by 3 means. We have biological nitrogen fixation, industrial nitrogen fixation and electrical nitrogen fixation. The biological nitrogen fixation and the industrial ones give us ammonia, while the electrical one gives us nitrates directly. Now this biological nitrogen fixation, this is explained in detail in this diagram. Here we can see the nitrogen fixing bacteria which are living in root nodules of leguminous and non-leguminous plants. They are going to fix nitrogen into ammonia, and this fixed nitrogen is going to be utilized directly by the plant, while the free living bacteria which are present in soil, they will fix nitrogen into ammonia. This soil ammonia will enter nitrification process, and it will first get converted into nitrite and then nitrate. These nitrates are further going to be entering into plants, and they are going to be assimilated, or they can be escaped into the environment and they can undergo denitrification with the help of denitrifying bacteria. Now these plants, they are going to be eaten by animals, and thus the nitrogen content is going to be passed on to the animals. After the animals and the plants die, the decomposers are going to decompose their bodies and convert the organic nitrogen into ammonia by the process of ammonification. This ammonia, this formed ammonia, is further either going to volatilize and re-enter the atmosphere, or it is going to enter the nitrification step. So this is pretty much the nitrogen cycle. Thank you for watching, and please do let me know what future videos you would like to see from me.